Welcome, everybody, to the Friday Night Live call-in show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Definitely glad everybody could go ahead and join us here tonight. We're gonna have an awesome show. We're not gonna be here for too long. I definitely want to make sure we get in here and get something in for the week. It's been a while since we had a Friday Night Live call-in show. This show is for you. It's for the viewer, for you to come on stage and talk about the latest is going on within the UFO community. There is a lot of news. We're going to cover some topics. So even if we don't get anyone to jump on the stage here tonight, we're still going to go over some of the latest stories as they continue to come in to the UFO community. Miss Catherine Jones, appreciate you for coming on in here. We're going to go ahead and get ready to jump on into some really good stuff. Let me go ahead and make sure that we bring up some information here because this is the call-in show, and we do have a phone number. So this is just for you to put in your Rolodex. Put this in your contact list. It's the number to the social dig, which is 856-843-3444, or that is 856-the-dig. If you happen to be outside the US of A, then you'll dial 001 first, then 856-843-3444, or that would be 001-856-the-dig. So glad to be joining you guys here tonight. Also, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so every subscriber matters. That means you. When you hit subscribe, you mattered. And everyone who steps in and hits that button, you matter to the conversation. And that's what this show is for. That's why we even have this show, is for the person that hit subscribe to come on and talk about things that they feel, their feelings, their thoughts about some of the news and things that are going on in the UFO community. We are on a climb and we are going to get to 1,000 subscribers. We are on that road. So make sure, if you happen to be watching this for the first time, you're into talking about the UFO subject and you want to help get to the answers, right? You may have some insight that I've never thought about. I may have some insight that you never thought about. Vice versa. That's what this community is for, to kind of just bump ideas off each other and try to figure out what in the heck is actually going on. What are we doing here? The Jaquetta, thanks so much for coming on in. We do appreciate you showing on up to the show here tonight. Also, let's see, we do have memberships available on this channel. So essentially, we're always trying to raise the bar here on this channel. If you've been here for a while, you'll notice that we have definitely raised the bar visually, graphically, sound wise, visuals as far as camera goes. And that's what your memberships go to. They go to making sure that we can put on a better show, pay for these silly subscription fees for these streaming platforms and things of that nature. So any help that you guys give is help to make sure that we can put these shows on. So I do appreciate each and every one of you guys for any of the support. And just as well as just coming into the show is also support. So do appreciate you guys. Friday night call-in show. So couple things here. We have a pretty nice schedule here. So normally we run the Wednesday show, which is the UFO, the definitive UFO news show. Usually runs on Wednesdays. We have this show, which is the Friday Night Live call-in show, which is obviously a Friday show. And then we have the After Hours radio show, which we run on Saturdays. So I put a post out to my community here last about a week ago, because we are in graduation season, right? So there's a lot of graduations going on. I'm actually taking part in some of these graduations, and it's kind of bittersweet, and I'll kind of go into that. But I'll be doing some of that here this weekend as well. So that's why there won't be a show tomorrow. But we'll be back to business next for the after hour show for next Saturday. Also, the Wednesday show, Friday show are still on point. The following week, though, so the weekend of the 20th, very important. The Friday show will go on, so will the Wednesday show. But that Saturday, June 20th, if you've been around here and you know anything's been going on, I had a family member who was very sick, and that unfortunately, that family member passed away. I have been selected to give the eulogy for this celebration of life, which will be taking place on June 20th, which is why we won't be doing a show on that day as well. So I know you guys been showing a lot of love and sending your love and feelings and prayers and everything, and I do appreciate that. And I'm gonna need it that day. Now I can talk. I talk. Obviously, we do this show. I'm no stranger to a microphone. But I think it's going to be a very special moment to be able to sit in front of a microphone and speak to all of the loved ones, family, friends, and I'm hoping I can get through it without having a moment, right? So I need to be strong in that moment, and that's what I intend on doing. But I just wanted to kind of give you guys an outline of kind of what's going on right now as well. The other thing that we have going on as well is that I'm going to be starting this training that has to do with my work, with the work that I do outside of the show. And that training is going to be over the next 4 weeks. So the shows have normally started. Our Wednesday show, for instance, I believe starts at like 6. So we'll probably be bumping that back to like 7, 7:30 roughly over the next few weeks while I go through this training. Shows will still continue to go on. It's just that the times will be bumped back some to allow me to get home from training, get everything set up, and get ready to put on a great show and continue the conversation. So I do appreciate that. Condolences coming from Kitty Catty Whack. I do appreciate you, and thanks for coming on in as well. And yeah, congratulations for the graduation, Kitty Catty Whack. And that's funny. I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because it is a beautiful thing, right? Yeah, a week ago or so, I witnessed a high school graduation, and I'm going. There's a couple more that are in the wings here, and it's like, wow, a awesome young person stepping into the next stage of life, right? Becoming an adult and moving into whatever the future holds for them. Then I thought about it, because I said bittersweet, right? And it's kind of scary, right, when you think about it, because this next generation or the future of our world and our leaders, right, will be these groups that are coming out of college or high school and college, moving into the world, taking their positions. And these are a lot of Twitter finger, the era of Twitter finger shorthand. I think it's going to be interesting as far as where this goes next. So I'm kind of scared, but then also I am kind of optimistic because a lot of these kids are very smart and they don't subscribe to a lot of the old ideas, right? That have historically plagued this world and are currently plaguing us right now. So I'm definitely optimistic. I think these kids will do great. Thank you so much, Miss Catherine Jones. Condolences from the Joneses. Thank you so much. Let's see here. Kitty Cattywack agrees. Says yes. It's like what 6, 7? Is that what the kids do? 6, 7, either or. I don't know. All right. So with that being said, we're not going to be around for too long because I do have to get out of town. I wanted to bring up some things. There were a few things that have happened recently that are at least worth talking about. Obviously, we're coming up on Disclosure Day, the movie, and hopefully the real actual Disclosure Day, right? Disclosure Day in the movie comes out next Friday. Hopefully, everybody is going to see that that weekend. We will be doing a show on Saturday, June 13th. Excuse me, June 13th, where we will have Kevin Day on to talk about his thoughts about Disclosure Day and where we are, and should be a very awesome show. Um, and I'm excited. I'm really optimistic. I have an outlook on what is going to be talked about in the movie, what's going to be depicted, and there are some things that I think really points to maybe some of the things that I said kind of being mirrored by conversations that I've seen Steven Spielberg have recently. Kitty Catty Whack is saying Yes, I'm going to see the movie Disclosure Day. I checked my local theater, but they don't have the tickets available yet. Kitty Cat Whack Disclosure Dictation. Silly Face. Miss Catherine Jones, 6'7". Yeah, it's a thing, right? It's a thing. So I'm not going to delay the show any. Definitely want to get the conversation going here. So the first thing that I had up here was we talked recently in the recent weeks, months, about the missing scientists, right? There was a list of missing scientists, I think 13 at the time. We went over each individual person. We talked about how some of these will probably fall off the list as not being related to the UFO subject directly as far as disappearances go. But there was one of the ladies on the list, Melissa Casillas, I believe. They found her remains recently, right? So she was missing, no clue where she was, and they found her remains. Now, I was looking into a video about this, and they had stated, and maybe we'll find out more on what we're about to see here, but apparently they found her in an area that they had previously searched. Whatever that means, I have no clue. But we're going to go ahead and jump into the first video here, and we'll talk about it once we get through this here. So let me go ahead and get this thing started right about now.
Officials in New Mexico say the body of one of those missing national security insiders has been found by a hiker in Carson National Forest. The remains of 53-year-old Melissa Casillas were discovered 70 miles from where she was last seen a year ago, walking alone along a state highway with a backpack on. According to the New Mexico State Police, a handgun was found alongside Casillas' body. Her exact cause of death is still being investigated. Casillas was an administrative assistant at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. Her disappearance and now confirmed death has long been folded into the dozen or so mysterious cases of missing or dead nuclear, space, and defense scientists. Some of the cases are pretty straightforward, though still tragic. Others are more bizarre, involving people who left their homes with little or no belongings, never to be seen again, like the high-profile case of retired General Neil McCasland. The FBI and Congress are now investigating, driven in part by speculation over whether a foreign rival military has been plotting to undermine America's national security. Again, many of these cases would seem to have mundane explanations, but Casillas' does have some concerning details. For one, her family says at least one of her cell phones was wiped clean with a factory reset, and it was left on the kitchen table in her home the day she left. What does this all mean? Joining us now is News Nation law and justice contributor and former FBI special agent Jennifer Coffinduffer. Jennifer, let's start with that phone. Why would somebody wipe and their phone and do a factory reset and leave it on the kitchen counter?
Well, I find it all interesting that she actually had two phones, Elizabeth, and both phones were wiped. So just the fact that she had two phones, I found very interesting, and the fact she wiped them. When you look at this, the fact she left everything behind, her purse, her identification, and last seen over 8 miles walking from her place, this seems to me a person that was struggling and had a mental situation she was dealing with.
How was her body found so far away then? I mean, that seems to indicate somebody else was involved somehow.
Well, she was seen walking on the road all by herself, and she did some errands before she left. She went and she picked up lunch for her daughter, and then she delivered that lunch at 1. And then shortly after 1, she texted her husband and said, listen, you're going to need to find a way home. And then about 45 minutes after that, that's when she was actually seen walking all by herself on this remote road. It was only 8 miles. She's an avid hunter. She's used to walking.
All right, so the family said in a statement that the area where she was found had been previously searched. Her body seems to have been found along a popular, if secluded, trail. Is there foul play here? Did somebody kidnap her, abduct her, kill her?
I don't think this is foul play. This so falls in line with other situations we see like this. When people are really struggling with a situation, they just want to walk off and go off by themselves. And unfortunately, it is so difficult to find people in the wilderness, no matter how many dogs you have. Look at Brian Laundrie, 5 weeks with all of the, accessories of the FBI and law enforcement couldn't find him.
Right. It's just so odd. She delivers lunch to her daughter and then I don't know, sadly, I don't think Jennifer, this is going to put to rest a lot of the theories and speculation out there, just because it's so unsatisfying. Perhaps once we know a cause of death, we'll know more. Jennifer Coffin Deffer, always great to talk to you. Thank you.
Okay, so definitely, yeah, very strange to say the least. So apparently she was found. Okay? So this is what I've heard. Apparently, her and her husband both work at Los Alamos. They rode together to work, and when they got to the gate, I guess she told her husband that she left her badge at home. And so she was dropping him off. She dropped him off at work. And then she left to go back home to get her badge. During that time she was gone, apparently she also went to deliver lunch to her daughter sometime close, in the afternoon. I didn't know about the text that she sent to the husband saying that he needed to find his own ride home. And you have to wonder, did she make that text herself? That would be a question. Maybe it gets answered coming here down the line. Also, the fact that with Patch Pirate, I thought I heard she had not one but two phones, and both were erased. And they did say that. They did say that during that this News Nation piece here, that both phones ended up being factory reset. Now, why would you do that? Even if she was going out on her own and she was having mental issues and she just stated that, she made the decision to unalive herself. What would be the reason or benefit of erasing the phones in that case? I mean, I would think that if your mind was troubled in that way and you were making the decision to go through with this wild thing here, that the last thing you would consider doing is erasing both of your phones. Like, where's I would think your mind would be somewhere else, right? So this is just very weird. Also, there is a road that goes through the town. I guess it takes you out of town, and it takes you through some really rough terrain. Someone said they saw her walking along this highway in the middle of nowhere. And they saw her get picked up by someone, some unnamed male. Doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And it is very strange, right? So then, obviously, they find her remains, right? In an area where they had already checked. Very strange. Very strange. Thank you for coming on in. Will Riders DG, the Social Dig, Rob Jeezy, bring you the receipts for all the ufology peeps. Can you dig it? Miss Catherine Jones, she didn't erase the phone. Foul play. And the thing is, with the erasing the phone, she's at Los Alamos. Her phones are locked. She had to unlock the phone. So if we're to assume that maybe if it's foul play, that someone else played a part in that, then they forced her to unlock the phone is what it would seem, right? So if this was the case, What were they having her erase? What did they think she had on her phone in order to make her erase this information? That would be a question. I just don't see. I mean, obviously it's possible she just erased her phones and then decided to go off and unalive herself. But it just doesn't connect the reason why she would erase both phones before unaliving herself. Very, very strange. Let me see. Kitty Catty Whack. It is possible if she did actually did these actions to herself, maybe she didn't want her husband and daughter subjected to an interrogation of the information on her phones. Okay, I can see that. But what type of information do you think that would be? Her and her husband both worked at Los Alamos. Is it possible maybe she was only connected to the top secret? Maybe they had different clearances. Maybe. Maybe that's a responsible thing to do if you have clearances. Maybe it's protocol that you don't leave anything behind that could tie you or divulge information potentially. But it's still strange. Kitty Catty Whack didn't want any information she might have on the phone to be available. Yeah, if anybody checked them. Totally understandable. I mean, it's totally understandable. I would think if they both worked at Los Alamos that her husband would be aware, even if he didn't have the same clearance level, he would probably at least understand that she had a clearance level at the very least. So it's the why. I just, you would assume, well, I guess potentially if she were to unalive herself, right, that she would, police may ask for her phones, which is possible. It's just strange. I don't know. Kitty Catty Whack agrees. Someone forced her to unlock the phones or something. Someone managed to get the passcode from someone else. Yeah, and you got to assume it's probably an iPhone, so it's fingerprint potentially or iCloud code, some sort of two-factor. I'm sure she's working at Los Alamos. Common for these government employees. That's all I'll say. Patch Pirate. I would assume there's going to be some stuff in there that shouldn't get out. I can agree with that. It makes sense. But if they're suspecting foul play, so we know then there's others involved, that it wouldn't likely then, based on what they know, because they haven't told us everything, that someone else was involved with their unaliving. So you'd have to assume then that that same someone else. So here's a scenario, just thinking about this, right? A lot of the theories, or as the News Nation reporter stated, a lot of the theories behind the missing scientists is potentially they're being targeted by foreign spies, essentially, that are here in the United States, attempting to get information. So maybe this interaction happens with her and someone else. And obviously protocol in that situation, if they're attempting to get information, is going to be to factory erase these phones. So that's what she's going to do if someone is attempting by force to get her to give the information that she has on her phone. And if they're considering this foul play, it's probably what happened. and the reason why the phones ended up erased. But then the other question would be, obviously, at one point, this is considered a disappearance, missing. So then she shows back up her remains in a place they had previously searched. Why would that be? Is it because of the spotlight on the case, the way it's being connected in the media as potentially foreign spies here in the United States that are conducting these sorts of operations? So, in order to stop a group, which obviously would be federal agents in this case, looking for her or trying to tie her to someone else that's out there, then you just make her remains get found. So they stop looking into that. It's very, it's something definitely to think about. Something definitely to think about. Yep, Kitty Catterwack. I mean, we can go in all different directions. Like maybe she was meeting somebody, and that's why she traveled, the way she did, not to be picked up versus being in a car to have contact with someone. Very possible. I like that. Maybe she was meeting with someone for whatever reason. Because the reason why she wasn't at work with their husband, they drove there together. She told her husband she forgot her badge at home. And so she was going to drop him off and go back and get it. Okay, that's a little weird. Like, if I could ask her husband a question, obviously, or maybe the investigators have done this, is like, does she normally leave her badge at home? Has she ever done that before? Because if not, that would be a red flag, right? Obviously. Saying, hey, I need to double back. And that could be, for maybe what you're stating here, some sort of meeting with someone. Very, very strange. Kitty Cattywack goes on to say, to discuss things, maybe she was concerned or afraid for her life. And we all know the other powers that could be doing nefarious things to her. And then, yes, I think that is good possibility that it could be outside sources. Like we already know, so many are trying to dismantle or bring down the U.S. in different facets of our country. And more specifically, with the types of things that the programs and things she was connected to. That's the reason why this all came to light, or the reason why her case was spotlighted, right? Because of the types of things that she was connected to. So outside of the work that she does, she holds no other information that would be valuable to an outside source. So if it's foul play, the phones were erased, likely in an attempt to not have to be able to turn over the information. Like, hey, the phones are erased. Do with me what you're going to do, but you won't have access to this information. Right? So if they came for information, they can't get it, then potentially that's where this goes. And I'm sure there's definitely dots to be connected in between that. But when this first came across the wires, I was like, oh, they found her. Okay, wow, we can cross one off the list. But then they talked about the things that, the circumstances. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Very strange. And here's the other thing. When they found her remains, they also found a handgun near her. Her daughter came out and said that she doesn't have a weapon. She doesn't carry a weapon. Now, the husband does have weapons. But they hadn't said, or they didn't know if he had any that were missing. But there was a weapon found near her remains at the scene in an area where they've already searched. Just don't forget that part. So, as far as it goes, the authorities are considering it foul play. And now we have to try to pinpoint the why. Very, very strange. You guys have some great ideas on this too. Kitty Catty Whack is cooking. Isn't this the woman who's working on some type of energy or could be sourced this free energy or anti-gravity? I think I have, let me see. I might have some of the slides from that show. Let me see if I can find that real quick because we did have a list of what exactly they had done here. Let me try to find it here. Missing. I think it's this one. Give me just a second here. Okay. Yeah, is she on this list? Yes, Melissa Casillas. 53. I think I do have some of that. Give me just a second here. Let me I'll tell you exactly what she did. Okay, so Melissa Casillas, she's been missing since 2025, just so you guys know. This isn't, yeah, her remains were just found. She's been missing since June 22nd, so a year. So her remains were just found with the weapon nearby. She went missing on June 22nd, 2025. I'm sorry, June 26th. June 26th. Okay, so she was an administrative assistant with security clearance at Los Alamos National Laboratory. Disappeared June 26, 2025 in New Mexico. Last seen walking along a highway without phone, wallet, or keys after taking her daughter lunch. UFO program connection, LANL affiliation, whatever that stands for. Nuclear classified access, administrative role. At the time, before they found the remains, police suggested that she may have left voluntarily. I guess because some relatives had noted some stress. No foul play was indicated. That's all changed now. That's all changed now. So that whole, just up until they found her remains, which was literally less than a week ago, they thought maybe she just left on her own and did not consider any foul play. That has completely changed now. Yes, Kitty Kitty Wax. It's very interesting that her daughter gave the information that she didn't have a pew pew. My other question: if she was going to work, scheduled for work, what didn't her husband or employer wonder where she was? I would say yes. But then I would also think when you have those types of jobs, you kind of have a lot of leeway. So it's not like just a normal job that we're at where if you leave, you're in trouble or, questions go up. I'm pretty sure with their clearance, she had the ability probably to come and go as you please, maybe work from home. A lot of government employees, especially on the higher end, have that sort of ability to kind of just come and go. You're not really, it's fluid as far as what they're able to do. Kitty Candy Whack even was sending a text to her husband. Maybe she had the flexibility. Yeah, exactly. exactly, to come and go. My other question is, what time did they get to work, and what lunch? What was the lunch for the daughter? It's a good question. Obviously, with there being an investigation, they're not going to give all the super details into this, and more will come out, I'm sure, as we go. Um, Kitty Cattywack, and even if her husband knew she was dropping off lunch to her daughter, but she states that he'll have to get other transportation home. So to me, right there, saying she wasn't going back to work, yeah, and that may have been something not out of the ordinary as far as not just choosing to not show back up at work. Like, hey, I'm already out, just going to take the rest of the day off. But the having to find your own way home part, for the husband, you'd have to ask the husband, is that normal? Like, your spouse is going to know immediately. That's what we know. She never would say that. She would never tell me to get my own way home. She would never say that. So it'd be interesting as they go. Maybe the husband will be able to come out and talk. I would hope he would, to find out if that was something strange. Because if it was strange, it should have been a red flag moment for him to know something's wrong. Like, hey, something's up there, something's wrong. So if it wasn't something she would normally do to have tell you to get your own ride, did you have a red flag moment? And then if so, what did you do? That would be a good question to know. Like, because you have to eliminate, obviously the core people around her, make sure they didn't have anything to do with it. I'm sure these questions are being asked. We just are unaware of that. Um, Richard Minnick, good evening. Appreciate you coming on in. But yeah, that's, it's strange. If it was strange before, it's even more strange now. It's even more strange now. And the person, and here's the thing, right? So the report was a person saw her walking down this road, which was in the middle of nowhere by herself, and then getting in the car with someone. Now, if that's true, that kind of makes the story a little okay, that part is not fitting for me. Like, why would she be walking down a road by herself and then getting in the car with someone in the middle of nowhere? Her car is nowhere to be seen. So maybe it'll come out that that was a misidentification, because I think it complicates as you're trying to think through this and trying to figure it out. That piece is just really troubling and doesn't connect for anything, but maybe it'll turn out the person that said they saw her, like, are you sure it was her? Could it have been someone else possibly that you saw walking down that road? That's what they would need to know. So I'm sure they'll interview the person that gave that account to try to figure out, like, are you really sure it was her? Like, did you see her face, or are you giving a general description and you're assuming that was her? Because it could have been someone else completely. And if it was, it would kind of uncomplicate, or at least kind of be able to hone in on, or maybe take a different look at, how this may have all transpired. Kitty Kitty Whack. Oh, I didn't know she got in the car with someone else. Maybe that was someone that I said earlier she was possibly meeting. That's what I was saying. That's what I was thinking. That makes sense. But, if I've seen people walk down roads all the time. I've seen people walk down the freeway, which is definitely not safe. Never do that. I've seen people do that. But I'm driving, so I'm seeing them from behind. Now, if someone came up missing, they said they were in that general area. Well, I can tell you, I saw someone walking down this freeway. It was a guy or girl, whatever it may be, but I couldn't really tell you if that was this person that was missing. I could just tell you I saw someone. It was a guy or a girl. They were walking down the freeway. And so I'm just like, how can you be so sure that it was this lady? Were you driving slow enough that you were able to see this lady's face? And so all that kind of stuff. So hopefully, you know, the family or people who can talk about this will come out and kind of get more information. Because right now, if you leave it just like this, it even more so fits into this whole weird missing scientist thing, right? Let's see here. Jedi, intuitive, empath. People with those credentials don't just walk, they Uber. And I agree with you. And that's my thing. That's my thing. That's exactly my thing, right? I'm sure the salary is outrageous. They're not gonna just walk down. And this isn't just a road. The I wish I had a map, but apparently this is out in New Mexico, so you know it's a lot of desert. But they get outside of the actual town. There's apparently this road that takes you all the way out into the desert and kind of into a hilly area. And this is where the person stated they saw her walking, like in the middle of the desert, like in the middle of nowhere. Like you wouldn't stop for that person to see if they're okay or if they need a ride, or you wouldn't stop and do anything. I just kind of passed by and then tied that person to a missing person case. I don't know. I don't know. Kitty Catty Whack, that would be so interesting to know what video footage they may have picked up during that whole trek that she took, or to come up with the walk from the home to this possible car. True. And then you have to decide who was involved, right? If it's nefarious character, maybe foreign spy type person, or random citizen out there that's the person that's involved with this, then that's one thing. But if you go into conspiracy land and you're like, okay, maybe it's someone within a program that is trying to silence based on, so then you're talking about government entities maybe being involved with that. And if that's the case, yeah, it'll never come out. It'll never come out, right? And it would be a dog chasing its tail type of situation, right? Where it may be something that'll never end up being solved. If you go on conspiracy side and say, okay, it's government involvement, the people in the background, the shadow government, we're involved with all these, and see, this is the reason why, showing how weird this is. They took our remains and dropped them off in an area that had been searched so they can kind of close the case. Very strange. Kitty Kitty Whack. How would they know which direction she went in? So they just tried to figure it out and then go back and look for possible camera sightings. If there was this car, I wonder if they were able to pick up again any video footage from someplace that would give them a license plate. Of course, not sharing with the public. And in a city, a real city, maybe. But if we're talking about in the desert, if you've driven through desert towns, and Los Alamos is, I don't know in what, I think that may be a city itself. But there's, probably maybe not a lot of camera, availability as far as that goes to kind of catch a passing car doing this or doing that. So you may not have that option. Hey, Cosmic Joe, appreciate you coming on in, pal. So it's just very strange. Very, very strange. And I'll be keeping an eye on it. I just didn't want to jump right into it. And it's just like, you can't take it off the board, right? And I think we already agreed when we did the show before that out of the 13 that and this is at 11 at the time, I think I updated this list. This was the updated list here. They had got up to 13, and we had already said, like David Wilcox, obviously probably not related to any nefarious government situation, and likely that a lot of these names would be considered to be not related at all to this. And so we were hoping and waiting for a moment. And like I said, I thought this was a moment where they were going to be able to take one person off the list. Like, okay, it's not 13, there's 12. We found remains of this person. This is actually what happened. So we know what happened, and we're good. But it just didn't come out that way. So you can't take her off the list because it's still so very strange. And there is no scenario that makes sense that I've heard so far. Obviously, a lot of people will be talking about this as time goes. There isn't anything so far that makes sense about. I think maybe what Kitty Catty Whack has said and kind of what we're saying here. This kind of probably one of the ways to look at it. At least a few different ways here, and that's exactly the reason why we do the show, to have these sort of conversations, man. Try to answer some of these questions we don't know, and as they're investigating, obviously, the investigating bodies are not going to tell you much, obviously. So hopefully we get next step. What I'm waiting for and hoping for is family members to come out and give interviews. And if they do, we'll show it on this show here and we'll talk more about it. So, yeah, kind of cool rabbit hole to go down. Condolences to the family, obviously, because they found the remains. And that's never a cool situation. You know, yeah, I mean, this is really as far as we can take it. Really, just prayers to the family. Prayers to the family. I did have another thing here that I wanted to look at. There's been these sonic booms lately. Been a lot of sonic booms lately. And there's a guy that I watch online, Stephen Burns. I'm probably sure if you're in this community, you've seen this guy as well. He gave a breakdown about it. The title of this video, we'll watch a couple parts here, and then I just recommend going to check it out on his channel. But the title of his video was, "This is a warning to the USA." And I want to make sure, I want to go ahead and take a look at this. So this has to do with the sonic booms. I think there's been 3 so far. And he kind of gets into why it doesn't make sense. Like, this is strange that this would be happening in such short time. So let me go ahead and bring that up, and then we'll talk about it, see what you guys think about this. Hold on real quick. Let me get this up here. All right. Yep. Stefan Burns. So you make sure to give this guy a subscribe. I always check him out occasionally. He has really good stuff. Talked about the 3-Eye Atlas while that was going on. He's definitely a good watch. So definitely make sure you guys go check this guy out. And we'll take a look at what he says about these fireballs here.
Hey everyone, geophysicist Stefan Burns here with breaking news. We have another anomalous sighting over the eastern part of the United States. This time, a long-lived fireball that was seen over Michigan, Indiana, Illinois. All these states, even Canada, even have a sighting here from the Keweenaw in Michigan, pretty far away. This was a long-lived fireball, a meteor that entered into Earth's atmosphere and it burned up. But this is the 3rd event now in just a few days. That is quite unusual. We have 211 reports for this. More are going to continue to come in. I have another video to show you of that as well. But this follows up after we've had 2 pretty significant sonic booms strike the East Coast. So most notably on the 28th of May, we had a huge sonic boom that hit South Carolina, but was also heard all across the southeast of the US. We still have no idea what caused this. There's no sightings of a meteorite and there's no anomalous weather activity. Very bizarre. It's a complete mystery. Now, we also had this sonic boom that rattled people near Boston on the 30th of May, so just about 2 days after what happened in South Carolina, but we do have video of that meteorite coming in, and NASA actually estimates that a chunk of it landed right here in Cape Cod Bay. So there may be people out there right now trying to recover fragments of that, likely being an iron nickel meteorite because of how it was able to survive, some of it at least, that explosion that generated the Boston boom. But now we have this new fireball that's come in over Michigan. And well, it's just pretty weird that just every other day now, we've been having some crazy event occur in the eastern United States.
I dare you to let me build you a completely free e-commerce store.
Anomalous surge of fireballs back in March to mid-April of this year. If you're kind of curious what a fireball is in the first place, this is a term that we use for a meteor that is brighter than the planet Venus. So Venus is the third brightest object in our sky under normal circumstances, and if it's brighter than Venus, it can be seen during the day. So if you see something fly into the atmosphere during the day, it's likely a meteorite, and actually it's a fireball. Of course, they can also fly in at night, and therefore they'll be really bright. Sometimes they can do these huge flashes of light that light up everything temporarily. So this is a very significant fireball sighting, lasting for about 14 seconds in this video here taken by Nick Schrader. He uploaded this to the American Meteor Society.
Weird.
This is the best video that we have of this event by far, but we do have some others, and here's one from Howell, Michigan here. This is a city webcam, I guess, and we'll see it come in from the top there. And keep in mind, everything's tilted and rotated with this video, but we see it go in like that. You do see a little bit of this like trajectory bend on this, and you also notice this with this video here from Nick. So you see it coming in, and well, it's very minor. This camera is pretty stable, right? It's not moving, and you do notice this slight trajectory bend there. So I don't really know what that's about. It's probably just, it started to fragment and effectively break apart. Maybe that altered the trajectory more. But this is now 3 events in a row, which are very anomalous. And so I wanted to give you an update on that. So here is again our map. We have our first sighting, our second sighting, our third sighting. And really the key here is that this Michigan fireball, NASA's estimated to have been a 4-inch chunk of space rock. The Boston boom is estimated to have been from something that was multiple feet in diameter. And this was a pretty significant sonic boom, but certainly it was not as impactful as what occurred in South Carolina. And there was really no sonic boom for Michigan other than one person who reported it directly underneath. This person also is saying it looked like a UFO. They have no idea what it is. So it's good to read through some of these observer reports, because while the video tells you a lot, also people's personal experiences, I think, are very, very interesting.
That's crazy. Once again, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. So 4 fireballs, he stated that that's not normal for them to happen back to back like that. Pretty big. I mean, you know, not huge, but 4 or 5 feet. You see the one he showed it traveled across the screen, and it kind of went in a straight line. I didn't see an arc. You didn't see kind of arc. It was just traveling straight across the sky. I've seen ones come straight down as the one we saw in the video as well. Is it always a meteorite, right? That's what you got to ask yourself. Because it's a ball of fire that kind of breaks up and dissipates in the sky, does that mean that it's some sort of rock? And if it is some sort of rock, are we, you know, because obviously the earth is moving, spins, obviously rotates, but it also rotates as it's rotating around the sun. So are we passing through debris? I know at one point someone had brought up, you know, maybe some remnants of Three-Eye Atlas. Are we like going through the tail or some of the material that was ejected from Three-Eye Atlas? Are we kind of passing through like a cloud of that, which is why we're seeing more activity? I don't know if they've answered that yet. I know it was a question that was brought up. You know, here's the thing. Because do I consider it to be anomalous or extraterrestrial? No, I don't necessarily think that. I don't necessarily tie it to being anything alien or extraterrestrial related. I can look at it as simply meteorites. But the question is, why so many? And when we're talking about the type of sonic booms that you're getting, he said at least two of them. And I know you've seen the news where they showed the sonic boom. Very scary, right? But are there bigger objects that we can anticipate coming? That would be sort of the question. They didn't know, they couldn't see these apparently, as we weren't made aware that we'd be seeing these. Usually, when they're going to have a meteor shower, which happens at different times, they're able to tell you, like, hey, you can expect more activity on this particular nights. Look up at the sky, go outside, you'll see a great meteor shower. And we get these, and they often are able to pinpoint them and call them and alert people who want to go outside and see this stuff. They usually are able to tell you that. But when you got objects like this coming in that aren't just burning up in the atmosphere without anything past that, we're getting these sonic booms, which means this thing exploded. It had to be, sort of big. I think he stated that at least one of these objects would have been something that exploded like, I think, 400 miles up. Definitely a good watch. You want to make sure you go to Stephen Burns' YouTube page. He has, besides this, he has a lot of great stuff. He's always on it, things happening out there in space. He's a good watch. But you just got to wonder if they're not seeing this, or they're not seeing something else. If some of these things are big enough to make it through the atmosphere, is it, or would we be in danger of having something the size of a car, right? Maybe coming through, or the size of I don't know, something bigger, right? That wouldn't really maybe necessarily devastate something, but something big enough, like the Chelyabinsk event in Russia. Yeah, everybody knows that one, where they show in the middle of the day, that asteroid came in, or meteor, whatever you want to call it, on the car dash cam, police car dash cams. And it kind of just went through and it kind of blew up. And there was a lot of, damage done from the sonic boom. Broke windows, all sorts of things. And they said if that was made of a different consistency, I think they said it was made of iron and actually like hit the ground, could have had a little situation where it, had some sort of localized damage. But we didn't see that coming because it was coming in, the Chelyabinsk was coming in from the direction of the sun. And they say all the time, the objects that come in from the direction of the sun, we just can't see. So is there something potentially down the line that we should be concerned about? These are, you're not getting into conspiracy when you have evidence of something happening or multiple things happening, which actually raises the question. And then want to, wonder, is there someone that looks up at the sky that potentially knows more than we know about why these things are coming in so frequently? And in this certain climate, this current climate rather, I don't know. I wouldn't anticipate any governments telling you much, man. I just don't. I wouldn't consider. I wouldn't think any government would step up and be like, yes, there's something to be concerned about coming very soon. Larger object. It won't do any damage, but the sonic boom might, be very compelling. Yes, this is correct, Kitty Catty Whack. I saw that too. And maybe I could find that while we're talking here. Also, recently there was a woman on the news. I don't know where she lives, but a rock or what she thought was part of a meteor fell through the roof of her house. Yeah, I saw that too. Let me see if I can find that. That would be, I think it was part of this whole event. So let me see if I can find that real quick. Thanks for reminding me of that, Kitty Catty Whack. I sure did forget about that. Um, Let me see if I could find that. Very, very concerning. Okay, that was, let's see. Okay, this was separate. It looks like, I guess this event, the one, this happened a couple months ago. But that also, and let me step back for a moment because this is what's concerning. If you watch the Stephen Burns videos, this cluster that we just had, it's weird that we had these in a cluster. But these events like these have been happening actually throughout the year. So other events, but not necessarily right next to each other, right? You have an event, then some time passes, then another event, which which I hear is not really out of the ordinary. It's just flags started being raised when we experienced these cluster that we just had here. But I'll play the video though because it is a cool watch just to kind of let you know that if more of these things are going to be falling like this and we're just unaware of what's going on, you could end up with the situation like this lady shows here. Let me see. Let me bring this up here. Give me just a second. Okay. All right, let's take a look at this here.
Flew over Texas, but that one crashed through the roof of a family's home. Our next guest lives there and says the meteor went through the floors.
Let me start that over for you guys. Here we go.
A third meteor spotted this week streaking over the sky in California, and it comes after the meteor we saw flying over Ohio. And another one flew over Texas, but that one crashed through the roof of a family's home. Our next guest lives there and says the meteor went through the floors, 2 floors, before landing in her daughter's bedroom. Sherry James joins us now. Sherry, thank you so much for being here. Wow. Did you buy a lottery ticket after that happened? Tell me what happened.
I did. I bought one that same night.
Good. I hope you win to repair your roof.
Yeah, definitely.
So what were you thinking when you heard this happen? Did you hear a crash? I mean, how did you went into the room and said, what is this rock doing in my house?
I was in my bathroom and I heard a boom. Then I heard another boom. And I thought maybe something fell over because it was in my daughter's room. So my grandson ran out of his room and he said, like, Nani, what is that? Did you hear that? I'm like, yeah. I said, something come out of Kiki's room. I said, go check Kiki's room and see what it is. I think something fell. So he went and looked. He come back. He said, Nani, there's a hole in the roof. And I'm like, what? And he said, it's a hole in the roof. And I'm thinking, oh, goodness, if it ain't one thing, it's another. So I come in and I look. There's a hole in the roof. So I saw that, and then I look on the floor. There's a dent in the floor. And I'm like, well, what is this? I was like, well, what's failed? That was what I'm thinking. Then there's another scuff in the ceiling over my daughter's bed. So I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
Then I look on the floor between the bed and the nightstand, and there's the rock.
The rock from space. That is nuts. So NASA does authentication of these kinds of things. Have you started that process? Do you plan on doing that?
I'm sorry, what process?
Of NASA, coming to you and looking at the rock and saying, oh yeah, it's a meteor from outer space.
Well, they haven't came. I really haven't heard from them, but I did have the Houston Museum, someone from the Houston Museum look at it, and a gentleman from Rice University Um, they came and looked at it, and the gentleman from Rice University was the first one looked at it, and he said it definitely a meteorite.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe.
All right. All right. So, yeah, once again, very strange. Very, very strange. And let me see here. Very strange. Very concerning, too, right? At that time, as the lady of News Nation stated, there were a few different meteorites that came through the atmosphere, and it was enough to cause concern as far as they made the news. This one happened to go through a lady's roof, right? So now we're getting into, I mean, and things fall all the time. Someone pointed out in the chat there's space junk out there. There's always something falling through the atmosphere all the time. So that's not really a big deal. But the big deal for her, obviously, is something fell through the roof. There was a lady who was actually hit by a meteorite that crashed through her roof. She's now, I think, in the Guinness Book of World Records as being the only person ever struck by a rock from space or that lived or something along those lines. Was actually pretty crazy, but it just becomes more concerning as you get this current cluster that I think one happened on May 28th and June 1st, and then I think the next one was like a day or two after that. And when they're big enough to make a sonic boom, then they go notice. You can't not notice something like that, and you have to wonder if there's anything behind that and why this year are we getting what seems to be all this activity. Like I said, back in the earlier part of the year when those first objects were coming through, they had a theory that maybe we were passing through debris from 3i Atlas. And that could be the case, right? If something that was huge like that, we saw the trail that came off of it as it was gassing when it passed, near Mars. And, we're obviously rotating the sun and we're going through a lot of the areas where it passed. And maybe that could be a thing, but which would, cause maybe more abnormal events to happen, right? I could understand that. I could see that. But the thing is, and the problem is, you can never second guess the government, and like you can never underestimate the diabolical ways of a government that would not say anything to you. And the reason why I'm even saying this is because the government has something called continuity of government, right? Now, a lot of people talk about it. It's not really something that that fits into your day-to-day life that you think about. But let me explain what continuity of government is for those who may not know. Continuity of government means when SHTF or ish hits the fan, some huge event, whether it's a nuclear situation, whether it's an asteroid impact, or whether it's extraterrestrials invading the planet, the government has something called continuity of government, which means they lock themselves in bunkers until the situation passes and they're able to continue running the government from these bunkers. So it assures that through a catastrophic moment, the government still exists and is able to operate. Now, if there was something incoming, if you watch Don't Look Up, right? We hope we never have a Don't Look Up moment. That is the worst case, the worst thing to ever think about when it comes to things that would happen here on this planet. But the whole issue with that is that the governments are protected, but the citizens are not protected, right? So if there was something coming in that they didn't want to tell us about, they would know and they would assure that the government was able to continue on the other side of that event. Now, I'm just saying that because people should know that. And I think it's, you hope to never have a moment where you even have to worry about that. But when you start having strange things happen that could indicate something, right? So it'd be different if we're talking about this and nothing has ever happened, right? We're not having this cluster of meteors that are kind of blowing up, and you have sonic booms from the explosion. Like if we weren't having these things, then the conversation is still there because the continuity of government is a real thing. But to kind of tie the things together would be a stretch. Not so much, right? And with the current government that is like, and government is never transparent. Let's get that straight, ever, regardless on who's in charge of it. Governments just aren't transparent. It's not their business model to be that. But in an event with with government we currently have, transparency is even less than it's ever been. And that's why when people say disclosure president, it's something that I can't believe people are saying. Like disclosure president, those two things don't even match. Disclosure and president, government disclosure, those don't mix. Those are oxymorons. It's no such thing, right? It's not in the best interest of any government to disclose to the people. It just isn't. Now, hopefully, with the disclosure moment that we're having as experiencers and as people that follow the subject, hopefully we get disclosure through our own means, right? As far as just evidence we've all collected, we're able to kind of come together as a people and just put our evidence on the table, not to convince any government, right? Because we know they have all the data they need to confirm this on their own. So for them, it's already confirmed. They know what's going on with the extraterrestrial presence. They know that, bringing that information out will bring disclosure to the world. There's no question for them. It's about the citizens and some of the other citizens that don't really understand it. This is actually one of those moments where we're experiencing something that's very real, and we're trying to take the data that we have to kind of show those that may not have had an experience or kind of aren't tapped into the subject that yes, there is this presence here, whatever it is, and it's real. And at any moment, any day, there could be a moment where we are having what you would call a contact sort of moment, right? And just kind of preparing people for that. So that's a great segue, actually, because the final thing I want to show tonight, and we've been talking about this since late last year, well, actually mid last year, when we first found out that there was going to be this movie in 2026 being directed by Steven Spielberg. I remember when I first found out about this last summer, and I was talking about it on the After Hours radio show. And at the time, there was only a working title for the movie. And the working title for the movie was Disclosure. That's it. It was just Disclosure. And we talked about it. And I said, wow, this is very interesting that this is a thing. Like Steven Spielberg is actually doing a movie behind the scenes called Disclosure in a moment where we have all this momentum and movement on the UFO subject. And, potentially this is going to be a movie that, as I stated before, a movie that fills in the blanks for a lot of the conversation that we've been having, right? So, for example, the whistleblower conversation, when we talk about what a whistleblower can tell you or what they can't tell you, right? Because they have NDAs and they can go right up to the line on what they can tell you. All the ones that are real, authentic whistleblowers have done that. They've given you as much as they could give up to the point to where they say, well, I can't really say any more than that because of an NDA, right? So then we have unanswered questions when it comes to stories that are being given by UFO whistleblowers. So my hope is, and things I've been saying this since last year, that Steven Spielberg, if he's taking on this movie and he's naming it Disclosure at the time, the working title Disclosure, and then we look back on his record with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is still one of the top disclosure or UFO movies out there. And the reason it is 50 years later is because he leaned into advisors. Jacques Vallée, J. Allen Hynek were advisors on the film. And obviously he took the information that he received from those advisors and implemented them into the movie, which is why when you watch it today, it still currently and accurately depicts the things that we currently are seeing and deal with within this UFO subject. So when I heard Disclosure was being made, at the time it was called Disclosure, we know now it's Disclosure Day, I said, you know what? If he takes that same approach, and I feel that he would, based on the last 10 years of what we've been experiencing, Lou Elizondo coming out, the New York Times article, the Tic Tac incident being on the news, all of the hearings that have taken place. I'm like, he's seen the same things that we've seen, and he decides to make this movie or begin making the movie in a moment where we're almost at this crescendo point. And I stated that my hopes for the film is that he uses his filmmaking ability, and then also leaning on current day advisors and even probably still Jacques Vallée, that he fills in the blanks, the parts the whistleblowers can't tell us, right? Because he's under no NDA. Steven Spielberg is under no NDA, which means if he is aware of what some of those things whistleblowers can't tell us are, based on what he's heard from advisors, have been told in the background, he's able through film to kind of fill in those blanks. And I felt like that's what, if I'm him, this is what I do in order to bring a movie that was titled Disclosure. It would have to include those elements. And I felt like that this film, and I still feel like until we go see it next Friday, it'll be out 1 week from today, which is crazy to think, because when we started this, it was over 180 days away. That this movie is one that helps usher in disclosure and answer some of the questions that we have, right? That we have for whistleblowers that they can't tell us because of NDAs, but maybe things that they, may have said or at least advisors may have informed behind the scenes. So it was very interesting because I also said, as we get closer to the movie, Steven Spielberg is going to do a press run. And when he does his press run, he's going to be asked about the movie and questions about the movie. I know at the time Close Encounters was done, he stated he had never seen a UFO. Still, he has not seen a UFO, according to one of the latest interviews. But I did want to show this, because when I heard him in this interview, he kind of confirmed a lot of the things that I was thinking, and I said on these shows, and as far as the approach goes to the movie. So this is going to be interesting. And also that, and you'll see in this clip here, or this interview here, that he actually dived into the subject as far as watching all the same shows that we watch. Maybe he came across our show at some point in time when digging in to see what the people were talking when it came to the subject. I know for sure he mentions the Tic Tac incident, that this is one of the things that he looked at. He looked at like the Age of Disclosure documentaries. I'm sure some of the James Fox stuff. So a lot of the information we consumed, he also consumed in making this film. So this should be right on point. We should all really probably very likely resonate with everything that happens in this movie. I'm so excited to see it. And I wanted to make sure that you saw what he had to say on one of the recent interviews here. And I think he speaks truth in what he says here. And then we'll talk about this afterwards, and then we'll probably get ready to wrap it up. But very, very important. Disclosure Day is coming 1 week from today. Go get your tickets when they're available. Go see it day one on that Friday, because we will be doing a show on Saturday discussing the movie with Kevin Day as a guest on the After Hours radio show. So let's go ahead and let me bring this up here on the screen. And let's start right about here.
Stephen, I want to start with you. This is a theme that you've explored before, which we love. Why was it important to come back to this theme of extraterrestrial life, and how are you continuing the narrative with Disclosure Day?
Well, I think it's a departure from both E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which could both fall into the fantasy category or into what I call science speculation with Close Encounters as opposed to just pure sci-fi. But I got very, very interested in this subject when people who were in the know, people in the Air Force, Navy pilots, people in Congress, when they all started talking about this after the New York Times in 2017 leaked the Tic Tac footage that we've all heard about and seen, I got really interested in this, not as a science fiction film, but as a kind of summation for me as a filmmaker in this genre. That includes both of the aforementioned films, and so I took this subject very seriously because it's something that I think is closer to fact than fiction.
Agreed.
I wanted to clip right there. Just stop so we can comment real quick. Science fiction to science fact considers the first film science fiction to science. He says in another interview, more so science speculation is what he would like to call Close Encounters, assuming there's something that could happen, possibly, because there's obviously things out there. But once he realized that things were here, well, this film is what he is stating is more of reality and not a science fiction film. So very interesting for him to say that he does not consider this film to be science fiction. I mean, we all understand that, but one of the big things is this film, as I said when talking about this previously, that unlike the UFO documentaries that have come out, the documentaries have been promoted, because they're not huge budget documentaries, right? So, word of mouth and within the UFO communities promoted within here doesn't really reach out to those out there that may not have looked at the subject. They're just totally unaware of these documentaries. But when you have a big budget film like this, I think Universal's doing this, then you have a huge budget for promotion, which means this film, which is potentially going to depict and explain everything that we've been talking about thus far, packaged up nicely in a movie, is going to be promoted globally and in places where people just haven't talked about UFOs. So this movie alone has the ability to bring everybody together on the same page at once to have this conversation. And I think it's beautiful. And we'll see how it turns out. Because there's some people out there just for some reason feel like this isn't going to be it. It's just going to be a movie. I beg to differ. And Steven Spielberg is confirming a lot of the things that I've thought, and you'll hear more as he speaks more about what you might expect from this movie.
And Coleman, working with Mr. Spielberg here on this film, at this subject matter, at this moment in history, what did this mean to you?
It means a lot. It means everything. I feel like we're looking for moments, I think, of awe and wonder and what can unite us. You know what I mean? I feel like the idea of us acknowledging that there are non-humans, that there's other civilizations that are among us making contact in some way, shape, or form, it's something that if we lean into it, what is the possibility? I mean, I feel like we're at such a critical time in our world, and I feel like we're looking for something that says that we're all human, we're all together, and we can all come together and form a new union.
You touched on something that I think was so profound and has stayed with me since watching the film, is the theme of humanity.
Yeah.
Also the theme of faith. And in this film, I found myself being emotional watching humans' treatment of these creatures. And we are the aggressors, and we are the ones not doing the kind things in the world. And why is it important for you, again, to explore that and to put that up on the screen?
Well, I think a story about, the existence of non-human visitors it does more to, in a way, explore who we are to each other as human beings, and the realization that we are having these experiences in real life, in real time, not just on movie screens, could be the thing that pulls us together to be able to find, which I think we need more now than ever before, to find common ground. And so the effort to tell the story was also the effort to explore common ground, empathy, how we treat each other, and it's also how we treat others.
Yeah.
I think what a beautiful message that is. It got me thinking about something about the idea that, like, my mother-in-law is only a Russian-speaking woman, and I don't speak any Russian, and she doesn't speak any English, but we communicate so beautifully together because we're willing, and we're willing to just like try to understand each other in some way, shape, or form. So I feel like I'm saying that because I think that's a gorgeous message of the film, of like having patience and understanding and empathy. And if you want to lean in to understand someone else, you can. You really can.
And this film, at this moment in time, where we are having these real life conversations, where we are questioning the government and what they know and what we perhaps should know, how real is this? Do you feel this is truly going on in levels that we are not aware of? And would you be for a disclosure day?
I would absolutely be for an actual disclosure day, which is sort of why I made the film, to maybe hurry it along a little bit more. But because film speaks so much, in movie theaters, people sometimes at home on television and in motion picture theaters, we kind of often see the truth coming more in the guise of stories and entertainment than we even do over the news in terms of gaining facts or trying to figure out what's true and what isn't true.
Okay, really quickly. So I think he makes a great point, and we've talked about that he hopes that this film helps usher in disclosure. And that's exactly so in order to make a statement like that, then the contents of the movie have to be positioned or laid out in a way that does assist with everything else that's going on. And he's told you, it all kicked off with the Lou Elizondo coming out, the New York Times article. So he went back and he looked over everything. He brought himself up to speed. Everything we've gone through in the last 10 years in real time, they were able to sit back and consume all of that information and more. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he dived into some of these UFO shows here on YouTube just to kind of see what experiencers are saying. And this all went into making this film. So he has said himself that he feels like and hopes that this film ushers in disclosure. So I expect this to be laid out and done in a very tasteful and powerful way. So see what else he had to say here.
Which seems to be harder and harder today to separate one from the other. So this movie is really it's a chase film, it's an action movie, and it's a film with very compelling characters, and they are all searching for a truth, and they do have a truth. They have an entire archive of the truth, 8 decades of UFO visual evidence, and the people that want to stop this from being disclosed publicly are after them. And so in that sense, it's pretty breathtaking, and you got to put on a seatbelt when you go to the movie theater. But at the same time, there's a whole other level to this movie about humanity and how we actually, compared to what we call non-human off-world intelligence, what is happening right now with our on Earth, communion between people who perhaps do not agree on anything, but something like this, a disclosure day, would bring them together in a kind of, maybe for the first time, bridging the divide that divides us.
And edge of your seat, right? Edge of your seat, thought-provoking. That's the best kind of filmmaking. So thank you for that. And your thoughts on a disclosure day, and do you think that perhaps we will encounter this one day?
I hope so. I feel like, listen, I feel like we need something to, something to just quiet the noise that we have between each other and unite us in some way, shape, or form. I think I'm all for it. Because I've watched congressional hearings. I've done a lot of research and study about this as well. And I think that, if there are, of course, I feel like our friend Emily, she says it's very arrogant to think that we are all alone in the universe. And I feel like that expands our vision of who we are, of who we can be. It just disrupts a lot of systems that we have, which I don't think it may not be such a bad thing. I feel like we may need a new vision and a new way how do we come together as long as we do it together.
Agreed. And I love the use of that line from Genesis. That was just beautiful and brilliant and so powerful. And I have to say that I heard that you guys had quite an impressive visitor while making.
All right. So, yeah. Disclosure Day. And I wanted to bring this up here. Edwin Guerra stating, I really don't think the plot in the movie will be that good, but let's see. The car driving through a house is so cringe. Yeah, I didn't understand, obviously I've seen the movie, so I don't know why it happens, but maybe there's a reason for it. Sometimes you got to do some little spicy stuff in a movie. But as he stated, you're being attempted to be silenced by the government. So if they get their hands on you, they're going to make you disappear. So if that means you got to drive through a house to get away, hey, I would probably do it too. So I'm okay with that. But there could be a very good reason why, as far as what sets up that scene, why that happens. But word of advice is, if those people, those elements of the government are trying to get you, you want to do everything you can to not get captured by them. They're going to make you disappear. They're going to make you have an accident. And you definitely don't want that. So maybe you end up having to drive through a house to kind of get away from that. And I would agree, District 9, that was an amazing plot. This movie, I don't have high expectations. District 9 was a great movie. I definitely loved it, and we've recommended it on this channel before. But the movie and not having high expectations, I don't know, because when you're talking about, right, so Scorsese, right? Scorsese is, if you're going to do a mafia movie and you want to translate that to the world, Scorsese has shown that he's one of the best to do that. So if you're going to do a mafia movie and you have the opportunity to have Scorsese do it for you, it'd probably be a good bet. The translation is going to be so there. And we already have on record the equivalent with Steven Spielberg doing Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Now, I don't know if you've seen that, Edwin Guerra, but I would say that when it came to translating what the UFO experience feels like and being true to the history and then also being true to the experience, he was able to translate that beautifully. And there are a lot of other Steven Spielberg movies that are just done very well. I would anticipate, because of that ability to do said thing, that hearing him talk in this segment, telling you what his objective is or was for this movie, that he's going to be able to translate that and get that to you. Just like I'm a musician, and creatives are, I always love speaking to creatives, because a creative can take this thing in their mind that isn't a thing and can manifest that into something physical for the world. So a painter has an idea of something in their mind, and then they're able to actually translate that on canvas. And the physical thing that comes out is done exactly as the original thought was, right? And that's what musicians do as well. Like I said, I'm a musician, and anytime I make some music, I'm always amazed that this finished result is the thing that started as a thought or an idea. It's just the ability to manifest that into the physical is what artists do. And I think Spielberg, as a director, has shown in many cases that he's able to take that idea and then translate that into something very tangible and understandable for the public to engage in and to enjoy. So that's when I'm saying that I hope this is a good movie. It's not just me hoping that this is a good movie. It's just, Steven Spielberg as a director has just proven himself to be able to do that. And once again, Close Encounters of the Third Kind for this particular conversation is a great example of him being able to do such thing, because we're talking about a movie that even in the time when CGI was not even thought of and the special effects were cheesy, he was still able to manifest a movie and create a movie that if you've ever experienced anything or seen anything, you watch that movie and you're like, wow, that was spot on. This is spot on, right? And to be able to do that, you have to be talented in order to do that. And I just really feel like that he's going to pull that off. So I would love to see what you say once you see it, Edwin Guerra, and tell me how you thought about it. We'll be talking about it here, obviously, and maybe we'll do like a post show. We're going to have Kevin Day on the day after the Disclosure. So Disclosure Day comes out Friday. Saturday, we have the show with Kevin Day, who, as Steven Spielberg just mentioned, that talked about the Tic Tac. We know Kevin Day was the person who spotted the objects on radar for the Tic Tac event to even be a thing. So he's going to be the perfect person to have here to talk about this. And we will be doing that. So I want to make sure that everybody also marks and hit your calendar and make sure you're here for this show, for the After Hours radio show on Saturday, June 13th, as we come in to talk about Disclosure Day movie. And we'll try to not do spoilers, because I know not everybody will be able to see it by then. But we're going to definitely dive into it and then see if some of the things we thought came to fruition. And I got to say, a lot of the things I've theorized on and hoped about the movie has already been somewhat confirmed in a lot of the conversations I'm seeing Steven Spielberg have. I flagged this one because specifically he kind of says the things we need him to say, but he said other interviews where he's positioned it a little differently, but it all comes to the fact that he really got interested within the last, obviously, 10 years to make this movie. He felt like the movie needed to be made in this moment that we're currently in. There is no coincidence that we feel like Disclosure is almost here, and then now we have a movie called Disclosure Day. This movie is made off of those same feelings and observations on different things that we're seeing around the community. And yeah, we just said that, Derek Galloway. Appreciate you coming on in as well. In the interview, says Disclosure Day movie is not science fiction, and I pointed that out because that's very important for people to know. This is not science fiction, and we always talk about, I have a segment called on the Definitive UFO News Show where we do science fiction to science fact movie edition. And the whole point of that is to show you old movies that were made about aliens in space. And at a time, we just considered them to be science fiction. Like, there's no way that could happen. Signs. We'll use Signs, for instance, one of my favorite movies. So where the aliens came and they kind of invaded the little farm that they were on, right? And they had to battle alien. If you've ever seen it, it's a great movie. But when I originally watched Signs back in 2002, I'm just like, hey, great movie. Didn't never think that it could be anything that could ever actually happen. But then when I went through my whole realization that this is actually happening, like there's things that are here that aren't from here, well, then I started going back and watching those movies again. And the feeling that you get once you know that these things are here and there's something, the phenomenon is present. When you go back and watch those movies that you thought were strictly science fiction, you see them differently. Signs, for me, when I watched it after I had the realization that things are currently here, it was way more scary than the first time I watched it. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. This, when I'm watching in Signs, is something that could actually happen tomorrow. And so that's the way a lot of things happen. But for him to point out that this is not science fiction is essentially telling you this is real. This is a big budget documentary, what you're about to see. And I hope I don't have to eat crow when we do the show. And I'm just like, oh, it was just a movie. I don't think it is. I think he's giving you all the hints that you need to walk into this expecting accurate depiction of what the current state is, and then going further, what we could do to get to actual disclosure, and then maybe some suggestions on how governments should potentially handle this. So, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be very, very interesting. Let me see. Let's see here. The movie is lit. Was it just me, Danny Hawk 7013? Was it just me that saw a beatbox trailer? I know what you mean by that. Danny Hawk. Wu Riders DG Consciousness Takeover. Marvelous. I heard a rumor that I'm starting here, wink, that there's a scene where a giant shark flops up onto the craft and then alien says, "We're going to need a bigger ship." Hilarious, because obviously Steven Spielberg also made Jaws. Let's see. Wu Riders DG. It is good movie, Paramarm. Not Close Encounters, good, but good. Let's see. Kitty Catty Whack, Dead Fish. I'm sure it's going to be incredible in IMAX. And if I can see it IMAX, that's where I'm going to try to see it. But if not, hey, at least I'll be able to see it. Let's see. Dead Fish Cheese Spread. Yeah, I can't wait. And whoa, Dead Fish says I'm going to have to drive about 100 miles to go. Oh, man, it might be worth that 100 miles. It might be excellent, right? And I'll say this here. Yep, Rob, I think you better save your voice again before you head out. Sorry for all the conversation. Don't worry about it, Kitty Cat. I need this to get my voice. My voice is by 85%, right? And so I'm almost back. But I appreciate that. And Cosmic Joe, I hope the lament memories will be uncovered while watching this movie. Awesome, Cosmic Joe. Dead Fish Cheese Spread, the Palladium IMAX of San Antonio. Be there or be square. Kitty Catty Whack, Wild Dead Fish. Yeah, it's the same for me. I know I'll have to drive a distance to find an IMAX. That's okay. See it, just see it. I think it is the big thing, right? And once again, I think it's going to be something to definitely have at least have a conversation about. And I hope it does more. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to wrap this one up, right? We kind of just impromptu did this thing and talked about a few awesome topics here tonight. So we did talk about the missing and now found scientist who they found her remains once again, Melissa Casillas. We talked about that here on the show. So if you missed that, definitely go back and rewind. We talked about the fireballs that have come lately and how strange that is and maybe what that could mean. I can't remember what else did we talk about. We talked about something. We talked about a lot of good stuff. So if you missed it, if you came late, make sure you go ahead, hit the rewind on this thing. Go back and watch it and share it with a friend. It's a good watch tonight. I do appreciate you guys coming on into the show here tonight. Let me go ahead and bring myself back in. I just want to thank you guys as well for, kind of bearing with me. Right now, like I said, it's graduation season, so which is why we're not having a show tomorrow for the after hours. We do have one next week. And then I have a eulogy once again that I'm giving. And but I talk and I speak. So on a microphone, so it couldn't have been a better part. I'm honored to be asked to do that on the 20th. So there will be after hour show next Saturday with Kevin Day. Once again, the following Saturday is when I'm delivering that eulogy, and our shows that are Wednesdays and now this Friday show, because I'm starting this training for my job here. I won't be home until about 6:00 p.m. Pacific during the week. So a lot of these shows I have scheduled for like 6:40. Those will be pushed back. We'll still do them, but they'll be just starting a little bit later. So that's a good reason to hit that notification bell, so you'll know, when I started an hour later or 2 hours, that you'll be able to come on into the show. So Once again, I appreciate you guys coming out, having these conversations that move the needle. Very important. Give you guys a round of applause because you guys are so awesome. Especially Kitty Catty Whack getting in there with some really great, awesome points of view and conversation tonight. Once again, thanks for coming in. Also, I got to say this as well. Hold on here. I do have to say this here. We have a phone number, 856-843-3444. That's 856-THE-DIGG. It's a call-in line. It's a message line. It's 24 hours a day. If you have an experience or something you just want to talk about, get off your chest, you can call that number any time of the day or night. 1 o'clock in the morning, doesn't matter. Call the number, leave that message on the machine. Also, when we do like the call-in show today, we'll use that number as well. Put that in your phone book. If you're outside the United States, 001-856-843-3444, or that's 001-856-THE-DIGG. Also, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and we're slowly getting there. So if you have not already, please consider hitting that subscribe button today. We always have awesome conversations, awesome topics, and I'd love to have you back to do as Kitty Catty Whack did tonight and talk about this and give your opinion. I love that, right? I'm on this end, speculating and giving opinion. I love to hear your thoughts on it, and I think we did a good job of that tonight. So thank you again, Kitty Catty Whack, as well as memberships are available. That's how you help support this channel. You help us raise the bar as far as content goes, quality-wise. Then we can pay for subscriptions that we use to stream and even get editors. I want to get editors in here. If you happen to be an editor and you're good at what you do and you want to help out a show, let me know, because I want to start doing some pre-recorded stuff, and I want a really good editor to go with a particular style that I want to do. So if you have that, please consider doing that. Also, as Woo Riders DG is saying here, join Rob's Discord. I do have a Discord as well, which you'll find in the description of each and every video. You go in there, click the link, it'll take you to Discord, to our Discord, the social Discord, where you can go ahead and join as members, totally free. And other members are already in there from the community. So it's a 24-hour place where you guys can go in there and have conversations. And we'll be doing other things there as well coming soon. So once again, another way to kind of interact and come together and continue to have this conversation, right? Because I think this is really just the beginning. So with that being said, guys, another awesome Friday night live call-in show. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. It has been a pleasure talking to you guys tonight, and I do appreciate once again everybody for coming in. Have a great rest of your night. Go hug the people you love. Make sure you also take care and just continue being the awesome people that you are. Have a great rest of your night, guys.